As a result of the massive controversy surrounding the title, Blizzard's Warcraft 3 Reforged has become the worst user-reviewed game on Metacritic, by far and away. This is Metacritic. The user score for Warcraft 3 Reforged is 0.5. It's interesting that the trailer here is for Warcraft 3 Reign of Chaos in the background there that plays when you start this. But anyway, user score is 0.5. Is the score deserved, you might ask? Well, I mean, there's two obvious ways to look at it. If we are to just, judge the quality of the game in itself, like if we're playing the game, does that deserve a 0? Probably not. I'd say more of a 4 or a 5, really. But you gotta keep in mind that what's good and what's enjoyable here, and there are some things that are good and enjoyable. The vast majority of things there are because of the fact that Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and Frozen Throne are two really good, solid games. And Reforged doesn't really add a whole lot. I mean, what are we looking at Reforged? Oh, some minor gameplay tweaks, some minor changes to the cinematic, many of which, by the way, are absolutely terrible. New models, which, alright, fair enough, you made new models with terrible animations, which ruined them. Great job, Blizzard. And then what? A couple of new missions? That's mostly it. Like, when we're talking, trying to talk about some positive changes, right? It's like new models, couple of changes, most of which end up failing anyway, despite the fact that they tried, then a couple of new missions. But here's the thing about those new missions. So far, in Reign of Chaos, from what I've played and from what I've seen checking this out, there are only 3 new missions in Reign of Chaos, and those are in Stratholme, Silvermoon, and Dalaran. Stratholme, pretty fine, pretty good, pretty solid as a mission. I quite enjoyed it. Silvermoon and Dalaran, not as much. The problem is Silvermoon, they changed the difficulty, so what happens is that the early part is a bit more difficult, the latter part is considerably easier. I mean, sure, in Silvermoon in the original game, you could steamroll through the enemies and, wipe the floor with them. But the problem is, once you win against Sylvanas and outside of Silvermoon, it becomes complete cakewalk. You don't really have to put any effort. Whereas in the original game, yes, you did actually have to put in some effort, have a real solid army to really take Silvermoon. Because what would happen is the AI would activate and they would actually start attacking your base and so on. But of course, the main difficulty of that mission is if Silvermoon starts attacking you, while at the same time Sylvanas is still alive. So Silvermoon, not as great, really. And I think the terraining work in that could have certainly been improved. The gameplay could have been improved, etc. Then you have Dalaran, and Dalaran was a major letdown as far as I'm concerned, because it's nice, the terrain is nice and all that, but the gameplay is like, oh, you get attacked by 3 units in your base, 4 units in your base, and it's like, that's a joke. You can use your starting army to win the mission of Dalaran. So that was a major letdown, and it shows to me, I think, that even the maps that they did change outside of Stratholme, which obviously was made as a more vertical slice, even those that they've changed, they didn't really have the time to fully to make them proper. Like, there's some potential here for really solid gameplay, but what we got there is, like, Dalaran in particular is quite a bit worse than the original mission, which is, well, it's saying something that they have a game made over 17 years ago that in many ways was better. I actually love a comment from one of my viewers on a community post that I made about this, and he had this to say: give them some credit. It's not easy to downgrade a 17-year-old game in almost every way possible and fuck up the original game at the same time. No, it's not easy to do that, so I guess we should give Blizzard credit for how badly they screwed up, because you have to understand, they didn't just screw up with the Reforged version, they screwed up the old version as well, because they've integrated the old version into the new version. So you can't really play old Frozen Throne, you can't play custom campaigns anymore. You have to deal with the new main menu, you have to deal with the loss of a lot of features as a result of that. And that's actually pissing a lot of people off. And actually, if the goal for Blizzard was, and I imagine that this was their goal, if the goal for Blizzard was to revitalize the multiplayer community by releasing a Reforged version so that more people would play and more people would come back, then this is a dismal failure. I've seen quite a few people talk about, hey, we can play the classic version if we use the PTR of the classic version or something like that. Like, people are looking for workarounds, and that just makes it a complete and utter failure. Like, ignore the review scores, ignore the bad portraits that exist, ignore the cinematic changes or lack thereof in quite a few cases, ignore the lack of mission changes, etc. Ignore all these problems that exist and understand that the real casualty here for Reforged is the entire Warcraft 3 online community. So ladder is a complete joke and a mess. Custom games are a complete joke and a mess. The loss of cross-region play, and on top of that, the changes to the editor. So there's two changes that people have mentioned. One of them is related to Blizzard owning the rights to the maps. You know, people have talked about, like, they did that in StarCraft. That's because Blizzard is still salty over the fact they basically lost Dota. Like, they're very salty over that, right? Hey, it's like the game really that came out of a map from our title. It's like, we lost the rights to it. Well, we're gonna change the editor. I mean, there's many problems with StarCraft 2, and why that had issues in terms of the arcade, basically. But it's actually worse here with that. And on top of that, like, on top of the fact that they've made that change, that Blizzard owns the maps that people create, which is not something that you necessarily see a lot. On top of that, they've also added the rule that you can't have a copyright in your map. So, hey, if you want to make, say, a Warhammer map or something like that, I don't know, is Blizzard going to ban that, or are they going to prevent you from playing it? That kind of stuff. I don't think I've seen many companies implement these kind of rules. Like, the only example I can think of, and this is only with the second part, is Total War Warhammer, with regards to the fact that people can't make, say, a Lord of the Rings mod for Total War Warhammer because Games Workshop doesn't allow that. But that's a different situation to an extent. I mean, it's a pretty shitty move, don't get me wrong, what they did there. I mean, originally Games Workshop didn't want to allow any mods, but then they Creative Assembly negotiated to them. But it's still a shame, because if there is a game in Total War that, you know, you can make a really solid Lord of the Rings mod, or even a Warcraft mod, or anything like that, it would really be Warhammer, Total War Warhammer 1 or Total War Warhammer 2. But they don't allow you to do that. But that's a licensed title, right? This is something Blizzard owns. I mean, people have talked about Bethesda's rules, right? With regards to mods, and they're nowhere near this. So these are some pretty horrible rules that Blizzard has implemented for custom maps. So when you're looking at the changes they've made, the fact that there's people in the community who really don't want to play Reforged and are looking for ways to play Classic, the changes to the lobby, the changes to maps, to the editor, the lack of custom campaigns, they've really taken a sledgehammer to the online community. And it actually gets worse. There is this feature comparison of Battle.net 1.0 versus Battle.net 2.0, which Warcraft Reforged uses and which StarCraft 2 uses. Now, I don't know who made this picture, but it seems to have been made more so for StarCraft 2 when that launched, as opposed to Warcraft 3. And it's making the rounds right now. And it is mostly accurate. Like, chat rooms, absolutely. Names, absolutely. Cross-region play, without the aspect of having to buy a copy of the game for every region, is accurate in the sense that there is no cross-region play, which is a death blow for custom games in particular. Player rankings, true. Team games, true. Custom games, no. Actually, it's one of the few things that isn't true for now. Automated tournaments, yes. Player profiles, yeah, I guess that is correct. For the most part. Player portraits, yes. Clan support, oh, absolutely, yes. LAN, I guess not, but I do find it questionable how LAN would work in Reforged, but that's a different discussion for another time. Name change, yes. Replays, yes. In-game commands, I guess so. I haven't checked it myself, but I think so. But yes, ignore stats, whisper, all that. Support, yes, and Facebook integration, yes. Oh, we got Facebook integration, everyone. And it actually gets worse. Not only do we lack all of these features on Battle.net between 1.0, which Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos, and Frozen Throne use, versus Battle.net 2.0, which Reforged uses now. But the main menu is like from Colin Cornaby. I've been trying to figure out why the main menu performance on Warcraft 3 Reforged is so bad. It ends up the whole main menu is a web app running on Chrome. What the actual fuck? And he's not wrong. Like, you open this picture he posted, it's like Warcraft 3, x86, 64, Warcraft 3 app content, share support, Blizzard browser, app contents, frameworks, Chromium embedded framework. Wow. Wow. That is impressive. I cannot believe how complete the failure of Warcraft 3 Reforged is. Like, you are running Chrome in the main menu. What have you done, Blizzard? What in the actual fuck have you done as a company? How could you do this? Who thought this was a good idea? Who believed this was a good idea? I mean, I really think at this point that they should have just canceled the release of Reforged. And you know what? I'm a YouTuber, right? So obviously for me, it's in my interest for Reforged to be out. It's in my interest to be able to make videos on this topic. It's beneficial for me personally, but like in terms of the quality of the game, for the fan base, for the series, for everything that represents, yeah, probably would have been better to cancel it. Because what they've done, not only have they completely and utterly failed in their own goal that they set up with this title, not only have they downgraded and screwed up a 17-year-old game and obviously impacted the original, not only have they done all of those things, but the actions that they've taken, the piss poor quality, has resulted in a death blow for the online community for Warcraft 3. But not only have they hurt the Warcraft 3 online community, they have their failure here, their dismal failure, prevents any future titles. I would be very surprised if Blizzard decided to make another strategy game, but I don't know. Blizzard's decision making over the last couple of years in particular, like, it's been bad for a while, but it's gotten exceptionally bad over the last couple of years. And I think it's just going to get worse and worse. Now, some people are saying, oh, they released Reforged right now because their financial quarter is ending, and they want to make it look better. Activision Blizzard's financial quarter is ending, and they want to make things look better on a financial level. So that's why they released Reforged at this point. To be honest, I think like the reason they released Reforged, it could very well be that. It could also be that there's only a certain limit to when they could delay it to, right? There is a certain time limit because of certain laws in certain parts of the world. In fact, they should have just released the game by the end of the year. It has to do with certain pieces of legislation that have been adopted. So it could very well be that. But really, the game should have been released last year, but they should have had a bigger team. Like, here's the thing. The game isn't bad because Blizzard didn't delay it long enough, right? The game is bad because clearly they didn't put the resources in to make it a proper title. And that is hugely disappointing. And that's why the game deserves all the scores that it's getting on Metacritic. Even though its actual quality might be better than that, and really is better than a 0, it's about sending a message to Blizzard. It's about telling them, no, we will not accept your trash. We will not accept you ruining a game that had such a significant influence on not just its genre, but also on gaming as a whole, which created some of the biggest characters in gaming right now. Costin here, signing out. Thank you all for watching. Stay tuned for more. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and enable notifications so you're aware when I'm uploading new content.